Introduce yourself. What's your name?
How you doing? I'm Luis Aviles.
All right. And what did you play today?
Today I played Unchained.
How you feel about it?
Honestly, pretty surprised about how it's been performing. You know, once Sharp got hit down a 1, I was very unsatisfied with the deck. I tried to play it a few times and it just felt very lackluster. But the new support, indirect support that came out in Phantom Nightmare kind of, you know, it just gives it another option and some other techie cards in the side deck and not side deck, sorry, extra deck that kind of help the deck kind of compete with other decks in the format right now.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it. So to start, obviously your tour guides, all right, and Phni Rhino. Best one card starter in the game right now. Unchained. Right, 3 Aruha, 2 Shyama, and then the 1-ups, 1 Srama, 1 Sharv, 1 A-Bomb, 1 Archaea, and then kind of the pseudo Unchained card is 2 Berserker Archfiend. It's basically an Unchained card. It's a 6, it's a Fiend, it pops a card. I saw it multiple times throughout the tournament today and tournaments yesterday, and the times that I did summon it, it kind of pushed game for me. Not even with the attack boost, just the fact that I was able to play through certain hand traps, especially Nib, that allows me to kind of push through Nib, similar to how the deck used to push through Nib. That's it for the Unchained kind of monster lineup. And then in terms of spells, 3 Prison, 1 Wailing, 2 Chamber, 2 Escape. I have considered cutting this and playing a 3rd Chamber or a 3rd Escape. You can kind of go whichever way possible. But the pop effect comes up way too much for me, and it just helps crack the board a little bit. And it's just another way of kind of starting your turn with that plus any of the little guys to pop it. I am still playing the contract engine. Right? 3 contracts, 1 Requiem. This engine applies way too much pressure going 2nd. It's a pseudo starter. It's a big body. It's a pop. It threatens Zeus. Like, it just does way too much for the deck, and I don't think I could ever play this deck without this engine. And then in terms of non-engine, obviously the 3 pot, it's also pseudo engine. This card's busted in this deck. Kind of unique interaction with the DDD packages. You know, after you use it for material, link summoning, you could also just banish it face down, which is kind of nice, so you don't have to waste another card in the extra deck. And then in terms of hand traps, we got 3 Ash. Don't know how I survived playing that card today. 3 Bell, 3 Nib, 3 Imperm, 2 Nib, and then a called by. Sorry, kind of running out of space here. Honestly, the MVP is probably Nib in most matchups, but Bell put in a lot of work for me. The deck is a little more fragile than it used to be, especially, you know, with how the format's starting to turn into a little bit of a board breaker format, especially Soul Release. I didn't realize how hard Soul Release hits this deck, but it forces out a lot of the layers really early, and this card kind of just mitigates that. And then obviously Imperm being Imperm. I opted out of playing Droll today and yesterday. I just didn't think that card did enough on its own. There's not a singular game that I saw Droll on its own and it didn't anything. If anything, it did more for them than me and made their talents or thrust live. And it's probably incorrect, especially playing Ash over Droll going into a fire format, but I just didn't want to lose to decks like Branded, which is also very relevant in the format, and Labyrinth. But that's it for the main deck. It's at 42 cards. I wouldn't play any more, and honestly, I probably wouldn't play any less. In terms of the extra deck, just your typical just Unchained extra deck with a few tweaks here and there. So 1 Caesar, no need for a second one, you'll never be able to make it. 1 Machinex for the DDD. The pseudo Unchained card, Typhon, this card's crazy, and then obviously Zeus for the Mac and X play. That's it for the XYZs. I wouldn't cut any of these. These are mandatory in the deck. In terms of the links, you have your 2 Yama, 2 Blue Dog, 1 Red Dog, another pseudo Unchained card, Little Knight. These cards right here, I would not touch at all. They do too much for the deck, and you're basically doing yourself a disservice if you're not playing any of these cards, at least at these ratios. There is an argument to play 3 Yama, but I opted out of doing that, at least for these past 2 days. In terms of the flex spots, 1 Dark. I'm on the fence about this card right now. 1 Access Code, just because the interaction of Anguish targeting your opponent's monster, then making Access Code is broken when you're not Fiend locked. And that's just, at that point, that resolves its game. And then in terms of the techie stuff, it's 1 Hida, 1 Sunlight Wolf, and 1 Princess. It came up a few times today. I didn't end up going with that line just because I didn't know how it would end up working out in the grind game, because this deck just it thrives in grind games. I did resolve it once, and the thing I will say about this, it's interesting. You have to be a little bit more aware of what bodies you're bringing out with when you're popping your Unchained stuff, to not get locked into Fiends. But if you're able to manage that, I think this line's nice. This card nets you 3 cards in the end. It's a little counterintuitive because you have to link up to link back down into Sunlight Wolf. But the fact that you're able to start recycling your Sharvs, your Aruhas, it's really strong. And then in that grind game, if you could potentially put this under the EMZ and then link into a Yama and then grab back the Sharv that way. I liked it. It's still a little unsolved for me. I want to find a way to fit Amba well. If I do, it'll probably be taking out the Dark. But I still haven't figured that out yet. In terms of the side deck, I'm disgusted at myself for playing this card. But shout out to Alex Betancourt down in Miami for... Sure, boss, you'll be good.
I'll see y'all Sunday for this case.
He's been playing this card in his decks a lot, and it seems to be working out. It's basically an FTK against most fire decks right now, and it's Shifter. The deck can play under Shifter. It just depends on what cards you see, but it's going to hurt your opponent a lot more when you see it than it's going to hurt you. In terms of the other stuff, we got 2 Thrust, and then the Thrust targets, it's Duster and Herald. Labyrinth matchup isn't as easy as it used to be, so you keep Duster in, and then Herald, you have to respect decks like Pearly. Then 2 Cosmic, you also have to respect decks like Centurion, and then this is also just good into the meta right now. You just have to be cautious of when you use it. And then 3 Evenly. I know it is a Thrust target, and I considered cutting it down to 1 and playing 2 more targets, potentially a D-Barrier and potentially a Duruma Karma Cannon for going first. But the beauty of this deck is that it's always been able to play through 1 interruption, and so if you can reset the board with this and then you're able to continue to play, you're going to be in a good spot in the game. And then the last 3 cards, Summon Limit. I think this is the best floodgate of the format. Decks that that can play around Anti-Spell can't play around this card, and this card just puts in too much work for me. It single-handedly won me the top cut game. I mean, I put up the normal, typical board, and he just had every form of interaction for it, and then flipping that just ended the game for him. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how it's been playing. There's a few tweaks here and there that I would do. Probably not for the main deck, other than the hand trap lineup. But maybe 1 or 2 cards in the extra deck that I'll tweak, and then maybe 1 or 2 cards in the side deck, just depending on how the format's going. But yeah, that's what I played today.
Any shout outs?
Yeah, shout out Big Shit Boys. was back in Miami. Shout out Gio, shout out Shaheen, shout out Alex, Ariel, Ryan, all the people that got me into the game again. Shout out Hollywood, like this place. Shout out Casey, shout out Wyatt, shout out Damien.
Appreciate it.
Good dudes. Yeah, no, had a good time. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thanks.
Thank you.